Check.
Congress shall make no law
Congress shall make no law
respecting an establishment of religion
respecting an establishment of religion
or prohibiting the free exercise thereof
or prohibiting the free exercise thereof
or abridging the freedom of speech
or abridging the freedom of speech
or of the press
or of the press
or the right of the people
or the right of the people
peaceably to assemble
peaceably to assemble
and to petition the government
and to petition the government
for a redress of grievances.
for a redress of grievances.
Let freedom ring. Hi, my name's Gene Whitworth, and we are all proud members of Occupy Pocatello, and this is our show, Occupy Live. First of all, I want to start off by thanking Channel 12 and the City of Pocatello for making this possible for us, and all the other shows that happen, on this network. We got a good show for you tonight. We're going to have an interview done by our friend Tanis here. A lady in Idaho Falls that was kind of treated badly by Wells Fargo Bank up in Idaho Falls, and thanks to Occupy Pocatello, thanks to Occupy Idaho Falls, that was averted, if only for the time being, but at least we think we done some good work. We went and helped them out up there, and she's going to have an interview with Carla Covington. That's the lady that, and then we got, we're 2 minutes at a time, we're all going to discuss why we are here, why we think this is important, and we're going to have some call-in discussion time after that. So right now I want to go to all the people here sitting on the panel. I want to have you one by one. Like I said, I'm Gene Whitworth, and then we'll just go right down the line. Introduce yourselves, and then it'll come back to me, and I'll start telling why I'm here. So go ahead.
I'm Tanis Vaughn.
I'm Ken. I'm here because I'm tired of corrupt government. And
Just your name.
okay, all right. I'm just here. Louis Archuleta.
And I'm John.
Okay. Yeah.
okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
this Occupy movement, I wanted to read a history of it, but we didn't have time to do that. But the thing that is that kind of the movement has a lot of people, and if you ask the question of why we're here to 100 different members of this movement, you'll get 100 different answers. But there's one answer that is pervasive and is pretty much it's going to be the vast majority of the time. There's one, you'll get some form of the system is broken, the system is rigged, it does not work for the 99% or thereabouts of the people in this country, and therefore the dichotomy between the 99% and the 1%. And like my story is, just briefly, I run a business, and then I ended up going bankrupt, and I went back to school. I ended up graduating college in 2010 with a political science degree, and I had a fairly high GPA. I had a strong emphasis in energy. I was ready to go out there and get in the market and go to work. That's what I wanted to do. But this economy did not allow it. And you'll find that's a pretty common story. And most of them are not as old as I am, but you'll find that's a pretty common story. And so that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm glad this movement's happening. So
The reason why, John,
Yeah.
do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, that would probably be a good idea. I'm John. The reason I joined this movement was there were many of my friends that were talking about joining an Occupy movement. This was right about the month anniversary of the national movement that started on Wall Street, of course. So a lot of my friends that had some political leanings were talking about how great it would be to have such a to have such a movement locally. And then somebody actually made one. And so within 2 meetings, I was already joining the group, and I've been with them ever since. It's really important, in my opinion, that Pocatello in general, but southeastern Idaho has something to coalesce around. A lot of people do have a real, if you will, I don't want to say problem, but southeastern Idaho has a major apathy problem. I'm horribly glad to see that this is changing now. And at this point, it's Gene, why don't you go ahead and introduce the next person?
Okay, let's jump over to Tanis. Well, how do you feel about it, Tanis?
Well, I've been an activist for a while, and I think it started probably when I did get out of the house and on my own in the late 90s. It was more difficult than I think even my parents had thought it'd be. They put themselves through college, and they didn't see any need to, have a college plan for me. They just figured I'd go to work and I would take care of myself. And they came to find out fast, and I came to find out fast that you can't do that without taking out huge loans and getting into debt. And I didn't even finish school before I was so into debt that I just couldn't afford to go to school anymore. So over the years, it just seemed to get worse. And when Occupy came about, when the stock market collapsed, I think that was when people finally started waking up and saying, there's something wrong, there's something broken. And we're at a point now where Occupy has given us this platform and helped move us closer together and try to find a goal, which at this point is just getting money, trying to separate money out of politics, trying to have some ethical, responsible, sustainable economy and businesses that can grow without being crushed by these huge conglomerates. So that's why I Occupy right now, and why I have hope that things will change.
Ken?
Well, I'm here for a lot of the same reasons Tanis is. I'm really tired of corrupt government, hidden government, all the things that they pull on us that we know aren't right. They write the laws, they write them for themselves, they take all the money they like. The campaign never ends, and it's getting very old. I've been tired of it for many years. I've worked for a large corporation for 30 years. Every year since I retired, they take away, and every year comes around, they take away some more. They have not lived up to their contract, and they don't intend to. And I'm tired of corporations buying the laws, buying politicians. It's become rampant. Citizens United is proving that, and it's getting worse. There's no end to the money they can pour in, and I can't afford a politician. I wish I could, but they don't work cheap enough for me. And the fact that the corporations are raping our planet and making money off it, and we get no say in it, I'm really tired of it. And I'll leave it at that for right now.
Lewis?
Hi, I'm Louis Archuleta, and I joined this organization for a couple of reasons. For the very first thing, our country is in deep trouble. If you know anything at all about history, the Roman Empire fell not due to moral decay and things like that. The real reason the Roman Empire failed is because 100 families owned the entire Roman Empire. And right now, we're at a point where the top 100 families in this country own about 70%. Right there, that is the alarm bell going off. We have such a wealth disparity in this country that it's driving the middle class, especially, out of existence. In 10 years, if the country is going to continue on the way it is going, we're going to have maybe a few more rich people, we're going to have a lot more poor people, and we're going to have a vastly diminished middle class. And it's the middle class that is the real strength of this country. Without the freedoms to go out and create businesses and create jobs, to create the society that we need, education is a huge problem. Economists all over the world are looking at the United States, and they're saying the workforce isn't educated enough, and that's really especially true here in Idaho. And once the Republican administration for the state has started cutting education like crazy, and that too bothers me. That's why I'm part of this whole movement. Is not that I personally want to change everything, but that society has to open up, find out what's wrong with this country, and then work together to solve those problems. And the problems that we have are immense, but they are not insolvable. We have to have the political will, and that means learning the truth about everything. And right now, if you are a consumer of Fox News, you are not getting the truth. There is no truth on Fox News. The whole truth about Fox News is that it's a lie. And now the people are starting to see it. Arab Spring woke up our young people and got them into the idea that they could actually change the course of our country if they went out and started occupying places. Occupy Wall Street was opening the door. And now you find an Occupy movement in almost every town, every city, every state in this country. And there's a reason for it. We're the 99%, and we're tired of the 1% running over us.
Thank you. Very good. All of you. Very good. That was really good. And, you know, it's not real comfortable all the time to express your point of view over the air for people to say, I'm proud of all of you. I'm proud of myself. We all did great. Now I think, look, I guess we're going to go to the interview. Is that right, John?
Yeah, we've got the interview, and it should take us almost right up into the half-hour mark.
All right.
Hi, I'm Tanis with Occupy Pocatello, and we're here in front of Wells Fargo in Idaho Falls. We're here with Occupy Idaho Falls, demonstrating against the bank's contribution to the housing crisis. And for one local woman, the housing crisis hits home.
Today, because we've become more and more aware of the foreclosure problem in the United States. Right now, the banks are, as you know, have foreclosed on about 10 million homes in the United States over the last few years. The problem with that is that they've been doing it highly illegally. They've been hiring people to fraudulently sign on documents in order to do these foreclosures, and the U.S. government and the state governments have been supporting it by having courts that don't even demand the documentation. They just go ahead and file foreclosures. So we have a case here in Idaho Falls where Carla Covington was able to contact the state and the state attorneys general and stop a foreclosure on her house. But there are thousands more out there. Another example is in Cleveland, where they're knocking houses down because there's so many foreclosed homes. They're knocking prices down, and it's a huge problem. If you think it doesn't affect you, it does. If you've bought any property since 1980, The banks have no record of those deeds. They don't know who you're supposed to pay off. They don't really, I mean, it's a question about whether the title companies really have been giving you clear title, and so it's a huge issue. So we're here to make people aware of the huge issue that we have with the banks, that they're not upfront with us about the problems that they're having, and that our congressmen are just sitting on their hands, our politicians are arguing about mundane things that have nothing to do with what's happening in the United States. Financially, we're in deep trouble because these banks do not know who owns most of the property in the United States, and that's commercial as well as residential. So we're here protesting because Wells Fargo's here, Chase is over there, and of course we do want to point out that local banks are typically not involved in this housing problem. It's our multinational banks, our investment banks, the huge corporations that are involved worldwide and have been instrumental not only in our recession but in the worldwide recession.
The reason that I got involved with Occupy Idaho Falls is because it's something we need. We need to speak out against big money buying our politicians. We need to get money out of politics. And since bank fraud has been investigated and some people were found guilty, why hasn't it been prosecuted?
Been collecting money to give to Carla. So here's an envelope with $275, $78 in it. It says, Carla Covington, thank you and congratulations for having forced Wells Fargo Bank to admit their wrongdoing. The 99% of Idaho Falls, Occupy Idaho Falls has so far collected $278 to help ever so slightly to defray the cost of Wells Fargo Bank's illegal and immoral attempt to foreclose on your home. Every fair-minded citizen has benefited from your courage and persistence.
Nice.
Yay! You're welcome. Thank you. Oh my gosh. You just said thank you, and you've been doing the work that we all need done, kiddo.
We're here in front of Carla Covington's home in Idaho Falls. Carla Covington is a longtime resident of Idaho Falls, and she's going to give us some her story on her dealings with Wells Fargo Bank. So tell us about yourself.
I've lived here in Idaho Falls for about 30 years, raised my children here. 20 years ago, my husband and I found this place in the country and thought it was a perfect place to raise kids. So we bought it and lived here. He passed away in 2004, and even after that, I was able to keep up the payments until my youngest daughter became critically ill, and she was ill for about 2 years. And during that time, I really struggled to make ends meet. But we've made it through it, and now Wells Fargo has tried to attempt to take my home.
How did you get involved with Wells Fargo?
When my husband and I looked at financing the house 20 years ago, Wells Fargo had probably the best rate, and so we just went with them.
Okay. How did you get behind on your payments?
It came about when my daughter became ill as the sole earner for the family. She does have insurance that covered her health costs, but it doesn't cover the cost that it takes to be there to take care of her. And the missed time at work, there were weeks when I was able to only work maybe 10 hours a week. So my paychecks took a drastic hit.
What did you do when you got behind on your payments?
I got a hold of Wells Fargo and advised them as to what was going on and asked them for a loan modification, because at that point in time I'd been in here about 18 years and thought, you know, after 18 years of payments they would work with me. So we went into a loan modification. They stayed in that for about 9 months and then came back and said, oops, we can't do it now, you have to pay us $7,000.
Okay. Did the courts accept the new payment program? Or?
Well, at that point in time, when they said we had to do the $7,000, I filed a Chapter 13 bankruptcy so that I could pay the past due amount through the bankruptcy. Through that process, Wells Fargo and the bankruptcy court and the bankruptcy trustee and myself reached an agreement in July of 2011 where they said they would accept a new payment and have the arrearage paid through the courts.
Okay. When did you find out you were in foreclosure?
I didn't even know it was in foreclosure till I got a call from a friend on December 13th who said, "Hey, did you know your house is for sale in the paper in the foreclosure section?" That was how I found out.
What did you do when you heard the news?
Once I was able to breathe again, after hearing that, I got online and checked the paper online, and sure enough, it was there. I called my bankruptcy attorney, let him know, and just, you kind of go into panic survival mode, just trying to figure out what you're going to do to save your home.
So, how did the local community become involved?
Well, my daughter has special needs. The one who is ill has special needs, and we had so many people pulling up to take pictures of the house and to look at it. It was throwing her anxiety and her fear to the point she was having nightmares. And I just thought it was time to stand up to Wells Fargo and just stop letting them humiliate me and shame me. And so I put a sign up and took pictures and posted it on Facebook, hoping that other people would care and be concerned and let my story maybe help other people.
Great. Now, have you received notice of the current action by Wells Fargo?
Well, there was a letter that was received by the Attorney General's office saying that they had entered into a special forbearance with me and that there would be 3 payments and then we'd go into a modification plan. But my concern is when I called the trustee who's handling the foreclosure sale on Friday, they said it is still listed for sale on February 2nd. And that they're still planning on going forward with it at this point.
How did the Attorney General get involved?
That was one of the things when I found out that they had put it in foreclosure, I started writing to every elected official that I could find asking for help. So I wrote to Governor Otter, Senator Mike Crapo, Senator Jim Risch, and who got the State Department of Finance and the Attorney General's office involved, and then Senator Crapo's conducting his own investigation.
Okay. So how do you feel now about the situation?
I feel really, really grateful for the number of people that have come out to help and have the love and the support of the community. And I'm also still really scared because I was going along thinking everything was okay through the bankruptcy, and then I was threatened with losing the last bit that I have of my husband and our life together. And even though Wells Fargo says they've stopped at this point, they haven't stopped. So I feel like there's a sword hanging over my head with just one string holding on to it.
I'd just like to say that if people think that Carla is an exception and someone that it's her problem and her thing, they're very wrong, because this issue is huge. The banks really, if you've bought a house since 1980, they may not know where your deed is, they didn't file it, and it may have been securitized. If that's the case, we're all in trouble because the banks don't know who owns any property in the United States, and that's both residential and commercial. It's a big problem for all of us, and we're all of us just one big illness or losing your job away from losing our homes. So it's not just Carla's problem, it's all of our problems.
Yeah. Do you think that's in part due to the mortgage electronic registry system, the MERS?
Well, in large part it's due to that, but it's also due to the deregulation and the fact that nobody was watching what the banks are doing or nobody's caring what the banks are doing. And so I think we've just started to see the real problem.
%. Join us in our fight to end corporate greed. Take the money out of politics. The banks got bailed out. You got sold out. You are the 99%. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like. We got plenty of time.
told you to be careful with your dancing.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime! Money talks! Money talks! Government talks! Hey, hey, ho, ho, corporate greed has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho, corporate greed has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho, corporate greed has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho, corporate greed has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho, corporate greed has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho, corporate greed has got to go! Here we were just walking down the street saying, Occupy Pocatello. Occupy Pocatello, you two are the 99%. Check us out on Facebook. The bank got bailed out. You got sold out. Take the money out of politics and corporate greed. You two are the 99%. People united will never be divided. People united will never be divided. People united will never be divided.
catalog with all the classes, and probably going to become great Star Wars.
Well, we keep it handled?
Well, it's like, Massachusetts doing that public health. Google on Maine, government election. All right, we'll see if we got to do that. Okay, Al. All right.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was the most awesome march we've had this year. Give yourselves a big shout out.
Oh, that's right. It was the first one this year.
Chris?
Hello there. Yeah, well, it looks like that was a great interview. It looks like
There he
we've got
is.
somebody on hold, one of our fellow Occupy members from Boise who moved up there.
This one.
He is on the phone holding. Do I understand that
Hey there,
correctly?
this is Chris Cook. I'm
Hi,
calling
Chris.
in for the show.
Hi, Chris.
I am in Boise, and I was told to call this number and give a brief rundown of what's happening at Occupy Boise, as well as state implications of HB 404.
All right.
You're
Let's-
sounding good, Chris.
Let's go with that.
I'm sounding good?
You're
Can
sounding
you hear
good.
me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
All right. Should I just start talking about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone, as I said, my name is Chris Cook. I'm currently interning at the Idaho State Legislature. And as many of you know, the last few days we've been hearing testimony on HB 404, which the bill would go on and try to remove people from occupying the place that's right across on Capitol Mall property. And as everyone else also knows, that should HB 404 go into effect and make it to the Senate and get signed by the governor, there's a clause in there that is specifically dealing with the emergency clause that allows for police enforcement or authorized personnel, according to the bill, to go in and compensate whatever is left there because it will be considered litter, and to go ahead and dispose of it My general reaction from sitting in on the State Affairs Committee, both today as well as on Friday, is that the majority of legislators seem like it is a good idea to go ahead and go with it in terms of move the bill forward to the Senate, which is really sad and disheartening, because if you look at the legal implications of it, you're utilizing a previously used ordinance that is currently tied up in litigation. When we talk about the camping and prohibition thereof, it's been tied up in litigation for the last 2 years in the state of Idaho. So it would just mean that it would expose the state to more liability and possible more lawsuits, which would come at the taxpayer expense. And so when you have that kind of recklessness, I guess, on the conservative side that we are seeing, then you really realize what's going on. For those that may not be aware, recently the House itself, on our side at least, has been a little heavy with security. And my personal belief on this is that it happens to be because of the Occupy group. To hear a lot of people at the Capitol talk, especially the guards, about the Occupy movement, it usually isn't in the most positive light. And when you get down to the facts, a lot of people here are saying that the encampment or the visual site needs to go because it is harming the blade of grass. As we all know, in Idaho, grass usually doesn't survive the winter anyway, and the area that is in question is being sold and turned into a parking lot. So grass is irrelevant in this case. Occupy Boise did sign a 42-page agreement with the state that said they would go ahead and comply with laws that would mean that they would take care of the facility and not abridge its access. Whereas right now in the House side, at least, you're seeing legislators who are refusing to have meetings with different people who identify themselves as occupiers.
Chris, this is
Yes.
Gene. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you.
I've got a question. Have the Occupy Boise people been living up to that agreement they made?
Yes, to my knowledge, there has been, and to Capitol Security, there has been absolutely no violation of what agreement has been signed with the state and Occupy Boise. Furthermore, Occupy Boise was recently commended by the police officers here in Boise for stopping when someone who was going around and vandalizing multiple cars within the Capitol area. It was a Occupy Boise legal observer who ended up turning that person in by simply recording the different notes that were being taken about said individual. So,
well, that
if anything, they've made this area safer.
All right, that should bode well for them.
Chris, this is Louis Archuleta. What
Hi, Louis.
implication does the state bill being discussed now have on the Occupy Pocatello encampment? We are on state land.
So this bill would affect all state land, and it would have wide range of implications for any Occupy group that would be considered on state land. And as you know, the Occupy itself is a way to address government grievances here in Occupy Boise anyway. And in Occupy Pocatello as well. You all are utilizing that space in order to bring attention to specific issues around government to which you wish to address and talk about. Even though it may be seen as a non-traditional form of lobbying your government, it is still considered, at least in my opinion, a way to open that dialogue and communication.
Yeah, it sounds like to me, I mean, maybe I'm being a little naive, but it sounds like to me a violation of the assembly part of the Constitution. Now, am I wrong or right?
I believe you're right, and if you look